He smiled at me. "You can never be my empress." I didn't even bother to lift my eyelids, my brush moving steadily across the paper as I copied the calligraphy my brother had left me. This nonchalant gesture infuriated Jing Zhao beyond measure. He strode over, snatched the calligraphy scroll from my hands, and tore it to shreds. "Shen Mingyu, don't think I don't see through your filthy little schemes. You claim you don't care about the Empress's throne. Well, I'll give it to you anyway. You'll never be rid of me in this lifetime." After Jing Zhao stormed off, I knelt on the floor and began picking up the tiny, tattered pieces of paper one by one. Ever since my brother had left the capital, this scroll had been my only link to him, my only consolation. "Don't be afraid, Mingyu," a voice cooed. "Tomorrow, I'll beg father to issue a royal edict. I promise to make you my crown princess's concubine." I snapped my eyes open. A shirtless man was gasping for breath as he lunged at me. His crimson eyes blazing with lust. Terror shot through me like a bolt of lightning. Huddling into myself, I scrambled backward toward the inner side of the bed, my tongue tied in fear as I stammered, "Stay away from me." The words came out not as a sharp rebuke, but as a soft, breathless whimper, one that sounded all too much like the reluctant, needy moans of a woman caught in the throes of passion. My robes were disheveled, my body burning with an unbearable heat. It was as if a fire was raging inside me, clouding my judgment, stripping me of all reason. Wave after wave of scorching heat washed over me, my consciousness fading by the second, yet a tiny spark of sanity still lingered, screaming at me, "Run, run for your life." I stumbled to my feet, staggering toward the edge of the bed. Suddenly, a pair of strong, powerful hands clamped down on my ankles, sending a chill of horror up my spine, my skin breaking out in goosebumps. The man tightened his grip and tugged me backward. In the blink of an eye, he had me pinned to the bed, his thighs pressing firmly against mine, trapping me beneath his weight. "Mingyu," he panted, his voice thick with desire, "you know I've always loved you. What does that sickly weakling Jing Zhao have that I don't? Why must you insist on marrying him?" Mingyu, Jing Zhao, the crown prince. Could it be I'd transmigrated into a novel? "Jingzi," I whispered, my voice trembling like a leaf in the wind. "Don't be scared, Mingyu," he murmured, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "I'll take responsibility for you. I swear I will." My mind went blank. In an instant, I understood everything. I'd been sucked into a historical romance novel called The Empress's Peerless Grace *, a story of two powerful protagonists falling in love against all odds. And I was Shen Mingyu, the novel's vicious female antagonist. This was exactly the scene where Empress Wang had plotted to ruin Shen Mingyu's reputation, shattering any hope of her marrying the male lead. Jing Zhao, Empress Wang, and Princess Yuhua had been bitter enemies for years, their hatred for each other running so deep it could drown a man. When Empress Wang learned that the princess intended to support Prince Jing Zhao's bid for the throne, she'd hatched this cruel scheme to force Shen Mingyu to lose her virtue. After Shen Mingyu became the crown prince's concubine, the male lead would marry the female protagonist, Zheng Dai, as ordered by the emperor. The two would then embark on a journey of falling in love after marriage, supporting each other through every trial and tribulation, consumed by jealousy and resentment. Shen Mingyu would grow more and more vicious as the story unfolded. She would scheme against Zheng Dai, bully her relentlessly, and even cruelly murder the child in Zheng Dai's womb. In the end, not even Princess Yuhua could protect her. Shen Mingyu would meet her tragic end, forced to drink a cup of poisoned wine that would seal her fate. "I will not marry this crown prince. I will not accept this fate." I thrashed wildly beneath Jing Zi's weight, beads of sweat breaking out on my forehead and neck, my back soaked in perspiration. "Jing Zi, let me go at once. If you do this, I will never forgive you, never." "Mingyu, I've loved you since we were children," he groaned, his voice hoarse with longing. "The crown princess was forced on me by father. I don't care if you hate me for this. I have to make you mine. I will treat you well. I swear it. I will take responsibility for you." He pinned both my hands above my head with one of his, while his other hand roamed greedily over my waist, slipping under the fabric of my robes, fumbling clumsily to untie my sash. Every time his skin touched mine, my heart skipped a beat. a wave of terror crashing over me. I froze. Then redoubled my efforts to squirm away from him, my body trembling uncontrollably under the weight of his male dominance. Fear, humiliation, and disgust, these were the only emotions swirling in my mind, not a single trace of desire or tenderness. The novels had lied. No woman could ever find herself succumbing to passion with a man who was forcing himself on her, no matter how handsome he was. In that moment, all I felt was revulsion. Jingzi, please let go of my hands, I whimpered, feigning surrender as tears streamed down my face, fighting back the nausea churning in my stomach. You're hurting me. I can't take this anymore. Just let me go, and we can both be at peace. Jingzi loosened his grip slightly, his voice softening with hope. Mingyu, do you truly mean it? Are you willing? Behind my head, my trembling fingers fumbled for the hairpin tucked into my bun. When I felt him pause his movements, I held my breath, seizing the chance. I sat up with all my strength and drove the sharp hairpin straight into Jingzi's right shoulder. He let out a sharp cry of pain and collapsed, unconscious. This dilapidated side hall belonged to an unfavored concubine. Soon, Empress Wang would lead the emperor past this very spot. They would coincidentally hear the lewd sounds coming from inside the hall, then coincidentally catch us in the act, ruining my reputation forever. The terror of nearly being violated, coupled with the dread of being caught in this humiliating trap, left me with only one thought: escape. I have to get out of here. The crown prince has fainted, I shouted, my voice shrill with urgency. The maids standing guard at the door had been about to stop me, but my words turned their faces ashen white. Panicked, they scrambled to push open the door and rush inside to check on him. I hugged my shoulders tightly, trying to cover the tattered remains of my robes. I'd bitten my palm so hard that it was bleeding profusely, but I dared not relax my guard for even a second. Staggering forward with great difficulty, I scanned my surroundings in the dim light. De Yin is ill. The emperor ought to come see her. A woman's voice rang out, sharp and clear in the quiet night. According to concubine Liao, De Yin has been thinking of father day and night these past few days. The empress is truly thoughtful, came the emperor's deep, resonant reply. Footsteps, accompanied by soft murmurs, suddenly echoed through the corridor. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. They were drawing nearer and nearer. I glanced around frantically. There was nowhere to hide, only a few large water vats standing in the courtyard, tall enough to conceal a person's body. Without a second thought, I climbed into one of them, using the cover of night to hide myself from view. I didn't dare move a muscle, didn't dare breathe too loudly. The water inside the vat reeked of filth and decay, but it sent a welcome wave of coolness through my overheated body, soothing the fire raging within me. The footsteps outside the vat gradually faded away. From a distance, I heard panicked shouts, followed by more footsteps approaching the vats. My legs had gone numb from crouching, my hands pressing against the slimy, dirty walls of the vat for support. Every little sound from the outside world made my heart race with fear. I don't know how long I stayed there, huddled in the darkness. Then, a soft, cautious set of footsteps drew near, stopping right in front of my vat. My heart leaped into my throat, threatening to burst out of my chest. In the pitch-black night, a face slowly appeared above the rim of the vat. Our eyes met. I let out a sob, tears streaming down my face. "Shish, don't make a sound," the man whispered, hastily covering my mouth with his hand. "It's all right, Yua, don't be afraid, it's me, your brother, Shen Mingyue's brother, Shen Yiheng." He lifted me out of the vat and wrapped his outer robe tightly around my shivering body, covering me from head to toe. His voice was hoarse, raw with emotion. I clung to his arm, struggling to stay upright despite my weakened state. I was drugged, I gasped, my voice barely a whisper. "I know," he replied, his eyes flashing with a cold, fierce glint before quickly softening again. "We're going home, right now." He lifted me onto his back, found a secluded path hidden away from the main roads, and ran as fast as his legs could carry us. In my mind, I recalled the novel's description of Shen Yiheng, a strikingly handsome, powerful yet tragic second male lead. On the surface, he was the son of Princess Yuhua and Minister of Revenue Shinshin, but in reality, He was the illegitimate child of Princess Yuhua and General Zheng Yi of Pingxi, making him the maternal half-brother of the female protagonist, Zheng Dai. When Shen Yiheng discovered his true identity, he was crushed by the truth that the man he'd called father was not his biological parent, and that the woman he loved was actually his own sister. He fell gravely ill, his heart broken beyond repair, and eventually left the capital in despair, never to return. The coolness of the water had worn off, and my body was burning with heat once more. The familiar scent of my brother wrapped around me, clouding my consciousness until my world narrowed down to nothing but his presence. Soft, broken moans escaped my lips, my body writhing restlessly against his back. Craving his touch, Shen Yiheng stiffened beneath me. He abruptly set me down on the ground, his brow furrowed with a mix of concern and frustration. I know you're suffering. Just hold on a little longer, please." I collapsed to the ground, my limbs turning to jelly, my face flushed with shame as tears streamed down my cheeks. His broad robe draped over my shoulders. He stood before me clad only in a form-fitting black silk inner garment, his well-defined figure on full display, broad shoulders, a narrow waist, strong, long legs. My consciousness was already fuzzy, and the sight of him only made my mouth go dry, my body burning hotter than ever. Unintelligible moans spilled from my lips as I lay on the ground, tearing at my own clothes in a desperate bid to ease the fire within me. Shen Yiheng knelt down beside me, his expression a complex blend of pain and resolve. Then, his hand struck the side of my neck with a sharp, precise blow. My vision blurred, and everything went black. I slipped into unconsciousness. I spent 3 days drifting in and out of consciousness at the princess's mansion. Haunted by terrible nightmares every time I closed my eyes, Princess Yuhua came to see me. She took my hand in hers, her expression unreadable, but I could sense the raging storm of anger simmering beneath her calm exterior. Years ago, this was exactly the same method Empress Wang had used to force her into marrying her current husband, Shen Shen. Now, Empress Wang had dared to use this same cruel trick on her daughter. How could she ever hope to swallow this humiliation? Although Princess Yuhua was not Shen Mingyue's biological mother, she had always loved her as if she were her own flesh and blood. After marrying Shen Shen reluctantly all those years ago, their relationship had always been lukewarm at best. The princess had rarely allowed Shen Shen to touch her. Then one night, Shen Shen had gotten drunk and mistook Yuan Xiong, one of the princess's maids, for his wife. He'd slept with her in a drunken stupor, to everyone's shock. Yuan Xiong had become pregnant shortly after. At that time, Princess Yuhua had been married to Shen Shen for over 3 years. She had gradually developed a soft spot for him, her feelings for him growing deeper with each passing day. Even if she'd never been able to express them openly, Shen Shen had been overjoyed, foolishly believing that he had finally won a place in her heart. He had never intended to let Yuan Xiong keep the child. He'd ordered his servants to slip something into Yuan Xiong's food and drink, hoping to kill both her and the unborn baby in one fell swoop. In the end, Yuan Xiong had died a painful death during childbirth, but against all odds, the baby had survived. Princess Yuhua rose to her feet, picked up a few hairpins from a nearby tray, and held them up to my hair, her voice deep and unreadable. "Mingyu, whatever you want, mother will give you. Not a single one of those who harmed you will get away with it. You must cheer up quickly. The title of Prince Jing's consort, the throne of empress, mother will fight for all of these for you." She paused, her tone softening. "After all, you are the future mistress of Prince Jing's mansion. You must look your best for his mansion-warming celebration." Let's just say, the female antagonist's looks were so stunning that it was the male lead's loss for not appreciating them. Lost in my thoughts, I didn't notice when Princess Yuhua slid the last hairpin into my hair, adjusting it gently. She smiled faintly. "Go on then, your brother has been waiting for ages." A tall, slender figure stood with his back to me in front of the carriage. He was dressed in a sleek black warrior's outfit, his ink-black hair tied up with an intricately carved golden crown. His tall boots reached his calves, making his legs look straight and powerful. Though he was clearly a general, he had a face that exuded refined elegance, more like a humble, scholarly gentleman in silk robes than a man of war, or perhaps a literary tutor from the Republican era. holding scrolls in his hand. Novels were full of flowery words to describe breathtaking beauty, but none of them could compare to the straightforward reaction of blushing uncontrollably and holding one's breath when standing face to face with such a man. In a word, he was devastatingly handsome. "Brother," I nodded awkwardly at him, then scrambled onto the carriage in one swift move. He froze for a moment, then broke into a smile and climbed in right after me. As he lifted his teacup to drink, his gaze drifted casually to my fingernails. "You cut your nails?" My hand holding the teacup jolted. I quickly set it down, tucking my hands into my sleeves. "Yes, why?" I mumbled. "A few broke when I came back from the palace that night. So I just cut them all off. That agate bracelet Prince Jing gave you, you wear it on your wrist every day, never willing to take it off. Why aren't you wearing it today?" He sat upright in the carriage, his back straight, watching me with a faint, amused glint in his eyes. "I was in a hurry to leave the house today, so I forgot to put it on. I'd never been used to wearing anything on my wrists. A few days ago, while bathing, I'd found it cumbersome and taken it off and never put it back on since." He stared thoughtfully at the small table in the carriage, saying nothing for a long while. Then he looked up. "Agate is a sacred Buddhist relic. Wearing it wards off evil spirits and protects your safety. You should keep wearing it from now on." I nodded and said okay, silently letting out a sigh of relief. I hoped I hadn't given myself away. In this feudal society, if anyone found out I wasn't the original Shen Mingyu, they'd probably think I was some kind of demon or monster. If that day ever came, my fate would be unimaginable. Noticing my downcast expression, Shen Yiheng glanced at me, his words slow and deliberate, as if trying to comfort me. "Empress Wang doesn't dare to cry wolf about what happened that night. To the outside world, she's only saying that the crown prince caught a cold. His injury isn't serious, he'll be fine after resting for a while." He'd said similar things to me several times over the past few days, but this time, he added, "The news has been tightly suppressed. Prince Jing will never find out about that night. Don't worry, Prince Jing's mansion didn't hold a grand feast to celebrate the housewarming. Only a handful of guests came to offer their congratulations, perfectly in line with the male lead Jing Zhao's low-key style. Prince Jing Zhao was the son of concubine Li. He'd been poisoned by Empress Wang when he was a child. Princess Yuhua had secretly sought out doctors from all over the land to cure him of the residual poison in his body. After the poison was cleared, Jing Zhao had been pretending to be sick and weak to mislead Empress Wang, making her lower her guard against him. In reality, he was strong and healthy and more than capable in every way. Don't ask me how I know. The author wrote about it in the extra chapters posted on her Weibo. In short, the male lead was a classic wolf in sheep's clothing, appearing weak on the surface, but with a forbidding, resilient heart and a ruthless streak. He also had a hint of the arrogant, possessive CEO trope, extremely possessive of the female protagonist, and unwilling to tolerate even a grain of sand in his eyes. It was after Jing Zhao ascended the throne that he exposed Shen Yiheng's identity as a bastard child. Shen Yiheng was subjected to endless gossip and slander in the capital. In the end, he had no choice but to volunteer to guard the border, leaving this place of heartbreak behind. Shen Yiheng should have had a bright and glorious life, but because of Jing Zhao's possessiveness, in a single day, he went from being a promising young general full of vigor to being labeled a bastard child born from an illicit affair of his mother's. Jing Zhao not only ruined Shen Yiheng's entire life, but also shattered his dignity and pride completely. Every reader in the comments section couldn't help but shed tears for the second male lead, lamenting how truly miserable his fate was. I turned my head to steal a glance at Shen Yiheng sitting beside me. Though he spent his days training in the sun-drenched military grounds, his skin remained fair, as if he was naturally immune to tanning. Even when his face was expressionless, the corners of his lips had a slight, upward curve. The sunlight spilled over his face, and he squinted slightly, looking completely relaxed and at peace. On the right side of his face, level with his earlobe, just below his cheekbone, near his ear, there was a tiny black mole. I stared intently at that mole, my heart filled with an indescribable sadness. He never should have had such a tragic life. "Yiheng, you're here, and Mingyu too." My train of thought was broken by a voice. A man dressed in luxurious purple robes walked toward us from afar. He had a small head and a delicate face, with extremely pale skin that made his thin, petal-like lips look unusually bright red. Taking a closer look at his features, he had monolids, narrow and long eyes, a refined and straight nose, lips as red as rose petals, a pointed chin, and a prominent Adam's apple. He had a somewhat feminine appearance. There was no mistaking that he was the male lead, Jing Zhao. Jing Zhao walked naturally to my right side, sandwiching me between himself and Shen Yiheng, and led us on a tour of the mansion. During the feast, a scholar stood up and suggested to Jing Zhao, "I have long heard that Miss Shen is a master of the guqin. Would we be fortunate enough to hear you play today?" All eyes turned to me in unison, my heart skipped a beat, and my blood ran cold. The original Shen Mingyu was an accomplished guqin player, but I didn't know the first thing about playing it. I froze in place, caught in a dilemma, wanting to refuse but not knowing how to speak up. After racking my brains and coming up with no way out, I had no choice but to say, "I'm not feeling well today, I'm weak all over, and my hands and feet are cold. I'm afraid it wouldn't be convenient for me to play. I sincerely apologize." The scholar in the blue robe froze for a moment, then realized the implication behind my words. His face turned bright red instantly, and he waved his hands repeatedly, stammering, it's fine. I was being presumptuous. Everyone was stunned by my bold, shameless remark. They laughed awkwardly and quickly changed the subject. After that, I lost all appetite for food and drink. At one point, my eyes met Jing Zhao's. He looked at me silently. A little while later, a maid from the mansion thoughtfully brought over a bowl of hot, thick brown sugar ginger tea. Drinking this in the middle of summer, and I hated ginger the most. I was hesitating when Shen Yiheng noticed the brown sugar ginger tea the maid had brought. He pushed it toward me and said, "Drink it while it's hot. Aren't you feeling unwell?" I sighed inwardly, then met his concerned gaze and drank the entire bowl of brown sugar ginger tea in one go. Jing Zhao saw us off at the mansion gate. Shen Yiheng walked ahead on his own, leaving me and Jing Zhao trailing behind. "Do you know Zheng Dai, General Zheng's daughter?" I broke the eerie silence first. "I've heard of her, but I've never met her," Jing Zhao replied indifferently. According to the original novel, Jing Zhao had no romantic feelings for Shen Mingyu. He was only putting on a show of affection for her to gain the throne and the support of the princess. For male leads like him who were focused solely on their ambitions, love meant nothing. Which woman he married was of no consequence to him. If Shen Mingyu hadn't been caught in that compromising position with Crown Prince Jing Ziyi, he would have married her without a single complaint. A faint sense of melancholy welled up in my heart. I sighed, then looked at Jing Zhao and subtly dropped a hint. "You really should meet her. She's beautiful, and she has a wonderful personality. I wonder who will be lucky enough to marry her." He gave me a look that made me feel like I was an idiot, let out a non-committal hum, and said, "Well, she can't marry you anyway." I lifted my eyes to look at him. He crossed his arms over his chest, let out another hum, and added, "And she certainly can't marry me either." Wait, what? Why can't she? Anything is possible. What sets humans apart from other creatures is that we have subjective initiative, thoughts, and independent personalities. So when we do things, we must follow our hearts and never be swayed by external influences. Is there something wrong with your head? Jing Zhao interrupted my long-winded speech, pointing at my head in disbelief. He even rolled his eyes disdainfully, as if he couldn't bear to walk beside me any longer, and strode ahead. After walking a short distance, he suddenly stopped, as if remembering something, and gradually slowed down his pace. A few days later, after Jing Zhao visited the princess's mansion to pay his respects, Princess Yuhua brought up the topic of my marriage to Jing Zhao once again. "Can I not marry him?" I couldn't hold back the question. "Mother, can your daughter please not marry Prince Jing?" Princess Yuhua set down her teacup and stared at me fixedly, her brows furrowed with confusion. "Next month is concubine Li's birthday. She will beg the emperor to grant you and Jing Zhao a royal marriage. Things have come this far. What nonsense are you talking about now, Mother? I don't think I like him that much anymore." I twisted the sleeve of my robe nervously, choosing my words carefully. "Mingyu, have you gone mad?" She gave me a profound look, then lowered her head again, her eyes empty as she stroked the white jade teacup. A cold smile tugged at the corner of her lips. "You still don't understand, Mother." Before I could argue further, she stood up and smoothed out the wrinkles in her robe, her voice cold and final. "You were just frightened by what happened that night in the palace, that's why you're talking such nonsense. This matter is not up to you. Do not mention it again." The setting sun hung low in the sky. I sat on a stone chair, fanning myself to cool down, my heart filled with frustration and unease. Shen Yiheng came to find me. "Yua, there's a temple fair in the north of the city today. Tonight, Bai He Lane will be lined with lanterns as far as the eye can see. Do you want to go see them?" Yes, I nodded my head vigorously. On Bai He Lane in the north of the city, the entire street was strung with red lanterns above, from a distance. It looked like a sea of red, truly magnificent against the dark night sky. The most common lanterns were long hexagonal ones, painted with all sorts of patterns, with tassel-like paper strips cut out at the bottom. "Mother told me about what happened today," Shen Yiheng said quietly. "Have you and Jing Zhao been quarreling lately, Yua, or have you just been unhappy?" I stared up at the red lanterns hanging overhead, murmuring, "No." Before he asked, I'd been fine, but the moment he did, a faint sense of melancholy washed over me. First, I'd dropped dead from pulling an all-nighter to finish my thesis, already unlucky enough. Then, to make matters worse, I'd barely transmigrated into this novel when I almost got raped. I'd barely recovered from that trauma when I was forced into a marriage. It felt like an invisible pair of hands was pushing me forward, forcing me to clumsily wear Shen Mingyue's skin, to pretend to be her, terrified of letting the slightest detail give me away. A wave of helplessness surged up from the bottom of my heart. Stranded alone in this strange world, there were moments, in the dead of night, when I felt truly, devastatingly lonely. I often found myself thinking, what am I supposed to do? I was constantly lost and adrift. When I used to read transmigration novels, the heroines always managed to thrive and flourish. I must be the most pathetic transmigrator of all time. The discomfort of being in an unfamiliar environment. The loneliness of having no one to turn to. These things almost broke me. If I couldn't even keep my own mind steady, how could I possibly hope to change my fate or achieve anything meaningful? Alright, I won't ask any more. Sensing my low mood, Shen Yiheng quickly changed the subject. "I remember there's a pastry shop up ahead. Let's get some pastries to tide us over first. Then we can have dinner after we finish wandering around." I nodded and followed him into the shop. A waiter brought out several plates of intricately shaped pastries, bending forward respectfully and gesturing with one hand as he introduced them. "These are chestnut cakes, peanut cakes, white rice cakes, flower-shaped glutinous rice cakes, cloud slice cakes, and pea jelly. Please enjoy, honored guests." "Wait a moment." Shen Yiheng frowned, calling out to the waiter who was about to turn and leave. His gaze drifted to my face, then flicked to the pastries in front of me. He suddenly seemed to change his mind, waving a hand at the waiter who had paused mid-step. "It's nothing. Go about your business." Shen Yiheng's fingers tapped unconsciously on the table, his eyes wandering, as if he was lost in thought. As I reached for the pastries, he stared intently at the plate, making me feel too self-conscious to pick anything up. Just as I was about to pop my third peanut cake into my mouth, Shen Yiheng suddenly looked up. His fingers trembled slightly as he pointed at the pastry, his sharp eyes locking onto my hand as if he could see straight through me. "Yua, what are you eating?" I chewed slowly, savoring the taste, then replied, "Peanut cake, it's quite good. Why aren't you eating any?" He shot to his feet in an instant. His strong, firm palm slammed down hard on the back of my hand with a loud, resounding smack. The peanut cake fell from my hand onto the table, crumbling into crumbs all over the surface. A searing, burning pain shot up my red, swollen hand. I froze in shock, my breath catching in my throat. Shen Yiheng struggled to contain his emotions, yanking me roughly out of the shop. "Tell me, who exactly are you?" He dragged me into a secluded alley, his fingers tightening around my wrist so hard they almost crushed the bones. His teeth gritted so tightly I could hear them grinding together. When Mingyu was 2 years old, she accidentally ate a peanut. She broke out in a terrible rash all over her body and almost died. She's hated peanuts ever since. She would never, ever touch them voluntarily. Who are you? Where have you hidden my real sister? Tell me. Shin Yiheng let out a cold, eerie laugh. Sounding like a ghost straight out of a nightmare, it sent my mind spinning into a blank panic. A wave of terror flooded my heart. I struggled to stay upright, my legs threatening to give way beneath me, my vision swimming at the edges. My breathing grew ragged and uncontrollable, the scattered passers-by behind him. The street scene bathed in the red glow of the lanterns. Even his furious face, everything began to blur together. I couldn't catch my breath, my face flushed bright red. I clutched my chest, coughing uncontrollably, bending over double as tears streamed down my face from the force of it, unable to utter a single word. Noticing my strange reaction, Shin Yiheng panicked instantly. The fierce, intimidating aura around him vanished without a trace. He fumbled frantically. Rolling up my sleeve, covering my fair forearms were clusters of small, irregularly shaped light red rashes, densely packed together, looking truly horrific. You are. Shin Yiheng's face turned ashen. He scrambled to hoist me onto his back, sprinting toward the carriage. That night in the palace was the most humiliating, most helpless night of my life. I gasped out, my voice strained and weak. I was on the verge of despair when you suddenly appeared. I thought you were such a good person. But you used my sister's life to test me. You're really too much. Truly, if your sister is dead, then you're the one who killed her. Princess Yuhua was cold and stern. Minister Shen was the epitome of a feudal patriarch, unsmiling, as cold and unyielding as ice. Only Shin Yiheng, he was truly gentle, but his gentleness was meant for his sister, not for a wandering soul from another world like me. In this situation, I didn't even have the right to blame him. But seriously, who would ever want to be thrown into this godforsaken place to experience life? Don't talk anymore. Shin Yiheng forced his voice to sound calm. But the beads of sweat trickling down his neck betrayed his anxiety. We have a doctor at the mansion. We'll be home soon. He settled me carefully into the carriage, hastily dismissing the coachman, and drove the carriage himself, racing back to the mansion at breakneck speed, jostled by the carriage's rough, bumpy ride. I gasped for air, a brilliant white light flashing before my eyes, and then I lost consciousness. When I finally drifted back to wakefulness, it was already the next morning. The strong, pungent smell of medicinal herbs filling the room made me wrinkle my nose in distaste. "Miss, you're awake." Lan Pei hurried into the room from outside, quickly inserting the lilies she was holding into a vase, then called out to Qing Shuang, who was waiting in the outer room. "Hurry and go inform the princess that the young lady has woken up. How's brother? Is he all right after what happened yesterday?" My muddled senses cleared, and I sat bolt upright in bed. Overcome with a sudden wave of fear and regret over my reckless behavior the night before. I shouldn't have admitted it. After all, this whole transmigration thing was beyond bizarre. If I had just insisted that I was Shin Mingyu, he couldn't have done anything to me. Even if he had gone around telling people the truth, everyone would have thought he was crazy, not me. I must have been out of my mind last night. I should have said I lost my memory. I should have denied it until my last breath. The young master was reprimanded by the princess last night. Lan Pei replied softly. He went to the military training grounds bright and early this morning. I spent the entire morning in a state of restless panic, pacing back and forth anxiously, racking my brains for a way out, terrified that he would come back and confront me that night. But to my surprise, long before noon, Qing Shuang came rushing into the room, her face pale with panic, gasping for breath as she cried out, "Miss, it's terrible. The young master has been carried back. He was training the soldiers at the grounds, and he got distracted during a sparring match. He didn't see the opponent's sword in time and got stabbed. When I rushed to his courtyard, I bumped into a maid carrying a basin of blood-stained water. I glanced at it briefly, then quickly looked away, my heart sinking like a stone. The room was thick with the smell of blood. The mansion doctor was huddled with Princess Yuhua, whispering urgently about Shin Yiheng's injury. A folding screen painted with ink landscapes separated the inner room from the outer one. Through the gaps, I could just make out Shin Yiheng lying motionless on the bed, as if he were asleep. A daze washed over me. I stared at the bed behind the screen for a moment, then silently retreated. That night, as I wandered aimlessly around the garden, I caught sight of Shen Yiheng standing in a pavilion not far from the lake, gazing up at the moon. Following his line of sight, I saw a thin, crescent moon hanging high in the night sky, casting a dim, hazy glow. I dragged my feet, walking slowly toward the pavilion. His injury was on his left abdomen. He was bare-chested, several layers of white cloth wrapped tightly around his waist, with only a moon-white silk outer robe draped loosely over his shoulders. The bandages on his waist were faintly visible beneath the fabric. When he saw me approaching, he quickly turned his back to me. Pulling the robe close to cover himself, the movement seemed to pull at his wound. He hissed in pain, a few beads of sweat rolling down his temples onto his cheeks. I rushed forward to help him, then hesitated, pulling my foot back before I could reach him. All I managed to say was a dry, awkward question. "Are you okay?" He quickly composed his expression, propping one hand against the pillar. "I'm fine." I had spent the entire day making up lies to explain myself, but looking at his pale face, the words died in my throat. "You're not Yua," he said, not looking at me, his gaze fixed on the crescent moon in the sky, his voice firm and certain. "The red agate bracelet on your wrist was a gift from grandmother." I froze, my fingers unconsciously brushing the bracelet on my wrist. So he had noticed something was wrong as early as the third day after I transmigrated, and the bracelet wasn't a gift from Jingzhou at all. "My sister is arrogant." With her nose in the air, he continued, his voice softening. "She's stubborn, vain, and refuses to back down from anything. Being with you feels nothing like being with her. At first, I thought you were just shaken up by what happened. That's why you seemed so dull and out of sorts. To be honest, even now, I can barely bring myself to believe that you're really not her." He turned to face me. The moonlight behind him made him look lonely and vulnerable. His voice trembled as he spoke. "Where is my sister? Is she still alive?" "I'm sorry, I don't know," I whispered. "I died, and then somehow I ended up here. I didn't mean to." "I really don't know where your sister is. What would you do if you were me?" he asked, standing there, staring straight at me, glistening tears pooling in his dark, bright eyes. "My sister has loved Jingzhou since she was a child. The emperor uncle was supposed to grant them a royal marriage next month." I couldn't bear to look at his sad eyes. I hung my head awkwardly, murmuring over and over, "I'm sorry. I really am. I'm so sorry." He hadn't said a single word to blame me. He was just stating the facts calmly. But that only made me feel even more like a terrible person, a thief who had stolen someone else's life. "I'm not blaming you," he said. Trailing off, he fell silent for a long time. Just when I thought he wouldn't speak again, he sighed softly. "Mingyu can't eat peanuts. From now on, you need to be careful." His figure gradually faded into the distance. I stood there alone, staring at the moon, wiping away my tears with the back of my hand. 4 days after that, I avoided him like the plague. He never explicitly said what he planned to do with me, but the uncertainty gnawed at me, a slow, torturous agony worse than any blade or fire. One day, after finishing my morning meal, I was about to go for a stroll in the garden to digest when I spotted several monks in saffron robes and conical hats walking toward me from not far away. My heart dropped into my stomach, a sharp, cold fear gripping me. The sun was shining softly and warmly overhead, but I felt as if I had been plunged into the depths of a freezing winter night, my hands and feet turning ice cold. As if I had fallen into an ice cellar. "Who are those people?" I grabbed the little maid sweeping nearby in a panic, pointing at the monks approaching from afar. "Miss, those are the monks princess invited from Angwa temple to perform an exorcism. The princess said you and the young master have been having one accident after another these days. It's all very unlucky. She specially asked the masters from Angwa temple to come and drive away the evil spirits. The steward sent for them several days ago. I suppose they only just found the time today." Just then, the monks reached me, clasping their hands together in greeting and nodding respectfully. Amitabha, Amitabha. Strange, truly strange, a sight rarely seen under heaven. The monk at the very end, his forehead marked with a red, suddenly fixed his gaze on me, staring unblinkingly. His eyes roamed over my face without the slightest hesitation, and he shook his head repeatedly. My heart skipped a beat, and I held my breath. "Kongji, What nonsense are you spouting? The lead monk bowed deeply to me, his tone apologetic. My junior brother has always had a loose tongue. Please forgive him if he has offended you, young lady. With that, he shot a look at the others, signaling them to move forward. Young lady, you do not belong here. Master Kongji tried to go on, but his senior brother cut him off abruptly, yanking him away. The group walked on. I glanced back, and our eyes met, Kongji's gaze sharp with curiosity and suspicion. My heart thundered against my ribs in terror. Novels always made it clear, in ancient times, supernatural powers were no mere legend, and I, a soul who'd transmigrated into a book, my very existence was already beyond all reason. At a time like this, it was better to believe in such things than not. I needed to figure out where I stood, to know exactly what kind of demon or spirit they thought I was. I wasted no time hightailing it out of the mansion gate, my feet barely touching the ground. I clung to the head of the stone lion trembling, trying to steady my racing heart. The gatekeeper kept glancing at me, but seeing I had no intention of leaving, he eventually paid me no more mind. Whether it was my imagination or a genuine attack, I suddenly felt my breath quicken, my head spinning dizzily. It was as if my body was being torn apart from the inside out. Beads of sweat as big as beans poured down my forehead, soaking my hair at the roots. I shook my head to clear the fog, then ran blindly forward, faster, faster, as if a pack of demons were chasing me. My only thought was to get away, to put as much distance between myself and the mansion as possible. But my feet tangled together, left catching right, and I went sprawling face first onto the ground. The jade pendant hanging from my waist slammed against the pavement with a sharp crack, shattering into pieces. The smell of dirt filled my nostrils, and I suddenly couldn't hold back my tears. What started as silent, trembling sobs soon turned into loud, heaving wails. Life was so cruel, so impossibly hard. A luxurious carriage rolled to a stop beside me. Slender, pale fingers lifted the curtain, and Jing Zhao poked his head out, his expression one of obvious surprise. Mingyu. Jing Zhao had come to visit Sheniheng today. He'd never expected to run into me like this, disheveled, covered in dirt, reduced to such a sorry state. Now we sat across from each other in a tea house, staring in silence. To be precise, he was staring at me, while I pretended not to notice his scrutinizing gaze, rubbing my eyes awkwardly. Why are you running around alone? He asked finally. It's nothing. Silence stretched between us again. Your mother's birthday is early next month, isn't it? I took a deep breath, forcing the words out. Marriage is no trivial matter. I think you should really think carefully about it. Jing Zhao sat with his sleeves folded, his lips pressed into a thin line, saying nothing. His expression was strange, so strange I suspected he thought I was playing some kind of hard-to-get game. What exactly are you trying to say? I clenched my fists, taking a quiet, steadying breath. The truth is, neither of us has any real feelings for each other. Why don't you choose another worthy wife, and I'll find a good husband elsewhere. We aren't know you're saying these things. There was no hint of emotion on Jing Zhao's face as his eyes drifted to mine. Do you even realize what you're saying? I do. His expression remained unchanged, calm, unreadable. You really have been acting like a different person lately. Naive, to put it mildly. I felt a surge of anger. How dare he be so indifferent when we were talking about my marriage? His casual, detached attitude was infuriating. The point of marriage is to spend the rest of your life with someone you love. I shot back, my voice rising. If you're not ready for that, then don't get married at all. Rushing into it is not only irresponsible to the other person, it's irresponsible to yourself. As a prince, I know you have your own difficulties, but right now, you don't seem to care about this marriage at all. Are you really this casual about it? Would you marry just anyone? I took another breath, recalling the original Shen Mingyue's personality, and continued in a softer, more vulnerable tone. I'm a proud person, everyone knows that. And everyone knows I've always liked you. A girl's feelings aren't that hard to figure out, you must have noticed, right? But you deliberately pretended not to see. You were never too close, never too distant. Always keeping me at arm's length, always leaving me guessing what you were thinking. I don't want to keep going like this. Our marriage isn't set in stone yet. Let's just stop here. Are you serious? A flicker of confusion crossed Jing Zhao's pale, delicate face. He poured himself another cup of tea, the fragrant steam curling upward as he spoke slowly, softly. It's not that I would marry just anyone. If I had to choose a stranger, I'd rather it be you. At least we've known each other for years, and you're not half bad. I was stunned into silence, my mind a jumble of conflicting emotions. If Shen Mingyu hadn't been violated by the crown prince that night, would her life have ended so miserably? She would have been like a cool, bright crescent moon, hanging proudly high in the vast sky. Shaking off the thought, I forced myself to stay focused. I don't want this. Forcing someone into marriage is not the act of a gentleman. I glanced around, then leaned in closer to him, lowering my voice to a whisper. If you're worried about my mother, just tell her I pressured you into it. She won't actually kill me, will she? When it comes to marriage, if you're firm enough, even your parents can't force you to do something you don't want. He ignored my words, standing up and straightening his sleeves. Are you coming or not? Figuring the exorcism must be over by now. I nodded. The carriage hadn't gone far when we ran into the mansion's guards. Miss, the young master went crazy when he found out you were gone. He sent every guard in the mansion out to look for you. We're so relieved we finally found you. Shen Yiheng stumbled through the mansion gate, looking utterly exhausted. His black robes hung loosely off his shoulders, unbelted because of his left abdominal wound. The oversized garment made him look ridiculous, almost comical. He shot me a brief, indifferent glance, then turned to invite Jing Zhao inside for tea. After Jing Zhao left, Shen Yiheng headed straight for my courtyard, still wrapped in that ill-fitting black robe. I bit back a smile, an absurd thought popping into my head. He looked just like the man in the man in the case or a black-clad weather doll hanging in the sun. Shen Yiheng gave me a complicated look, his brows furrowing slightly as he got straight to the point. I don't know what to do with you, not really, but as long as you're wearing Mingyue's face. The minister's mansion will protect you. Don't think running away will make you safe. The clothes you wear, the jewelry you put on, none of it is ordinary. They'll only bring you trouble if you wander around outside alone. The world is full of bad people. It's hard enough for a woman to survive out there, let alone one traveling alone. Of course, the devastatingly handsome young master had to have a kind heart to be the second male lead. Second male leads were destined to be gentle, brooding souls, never allowed to have even a hint of cunning or scheming. But male leads, they could scheme and manipulate to their heart's content. They could be arrogant, domineering, even sinister, and it was all fine. And in the end, the female lead always acted blind and foolish, choosing the male lead over the perfect second male lead every single time. Why was that? Gentle second male leads never got happy endings. It was like their only purpose in life was to make readers sigh in sympathy and regret. Why did the universe have to be so unfair? When Shen Yiheng faced me head-on, I couldn't see the tiny black mole on his right cheek. It was only when he tilted his head slightly, turning that side of his face toward me, that I could catch a glimpse of that small, perfect flaw. A thought popped into my head unbidden, out of nowhere. I will always surrender to gentleness. I wasn't trying to run away, I said, looking at his rumpled robes, my heart softening with genuine gratitude. It's just, Mother invited those monks, and I was scared. Shen Yiheng froze for a moment, then a faint, almost imperceptible smile tugged at his lips. Oh, so even you are afraid of things like that? I stared at him in confusion, the warmth in my chest vanishing instantly. The way he said it, it was like he knew something I didn't, like he knew exactly what kind of demon or spirit I was. Did anything happen to you during the exorcism? He asked. I eyed him warily, shaking my head without batting an eyelash. Not a thing. It didn't seem to work at all. Maybe one day you'll wake up, and Mingyu will be back. He sighed softly. I touched my nose awkwardly, then heard him add, I really don't know what to do with you. Give me some time to think. In the meantime, try to imitate Mingyue's handwriting. The next day, I sat in Shen Yiheng's study, staring at his calligraphy, each stroke sharp and forceful, ink bleeding through the paper, and fell into deep thought. Father was always cold to Mingyu, he told me, his voice quiet with regret. When we were children, he praised my handwriting once. Mingyu remembered it, and asked for my copybooks to practice. She eventually mastered the delicate *zon hua xiao kai * script, but now it's all rusty. I wrote a few characters and showed them to him. He stared at my clumsy attempt for a long time. Then finally managed 2 words, passable. Every day after assigning me my writing tasks, he would leave me alone in his study to practice. Once I'd written for several hours straight, he'd come back in, pick up a pair of scissors, and snip my practice sheets into tiny pieces, snip, snip, snip. After he finished cutting, he'd carry the dustpan full of paper scraps outside to dispose of them. Perhaps the past month had been too peaceful, so peaceful I'd almost forgotten about Concubine Li's birthday. The emperor had moved to the summer palace last month to escape the heat, and Concubine Li's birthday feast was to be held there. My heart was heavy with anxiety. Jing Zhao hadn't given me a clear answer last time, and this morning, Princess Yuhua had specially prepared a dress for me, one in a soft, delicate shade of pink. The meaning behind it was crystal clear. Would Concubine Li beg the emperor to grant Jing Zhao and me a royal marriage? Would my fate be sealed once and for all after today? Right before we set off, Shen Yiheng sent someone to bring me a roll of gauze and a small porcelain vial of golden sore medicine. I sprinkled some of the powder on my thumb, wrapped it several times with the gauze, and only then stepped out of the room. Though I wouldn't be playing the qin at this occasion, I wrapped my hand carefully just to be safe. At Huguang Pavilion, where the feast was held, everyone had already taken their seats. Accompanied by the melodious strains of string and bamboo instruments, the concubines offered auspicious wishes to Concubine Li, raising their wine cups in toasts, an atmosphere of lively celebration. My gaze kept drifting toward Concubine Li. A single word from her could decide my fate. Just as the wine and music reached their crescendo, Empress Wang spoke up suddenly, addressing Concubine Li. Today is your joyous birthday, Sister Li. My first wish is for you to retain your youthful beauty forever. My second, for you to enjoy good health, free from illness and misfortune. As for the third, the Empress paused, a playful smile curving her lips. My third wish is for Prince Jing to find a worthy consort, so that you, Sister Li, may soon enjoy the bliss of family happiness. Concubine Li's lips trembled, and she was about to speak. My heart leaped into my throat, pounding wildly against my ribs, but just as Concubine Li was about to open her mouth, the Empress suddenly rose to her feet, curtsied deeply to the Emperor, and stole the chance to speak. A few days ago, the Duchess of Ju paid a visit to the palace. In our conversation, she mentioned that her daughter, Ju Wanru, is still unmarried, and begged me to keep an eye out for suitable young men in the capital. I have met Wanru myself. She is beautiful and intelligent, serene and elegant. Today, seeing Prince Jing, I suddenly remembered this matter. Looking at them, they are truly a perfect match, talented and beautiful. Taking advantage of this joyous occasion of Sister Li's birthday, I dare to overstep my bounds and ask for your Majesty's opinion on this matter. This sudden turn of events caught everyone off guard. With her preemptive strike, the Empress had instantly turned the tables. Seizing the initiative from Concubine Li, if Concubine Li were to propose another candidate now, it would only sound like a flimsy excuse to refuse. Princess Yuhua slammed her palm on the table and stood up abruptly, her brows furrowed in anger. Brother Emperor, you cannot. Concubine Li hung her head, her teeth clenched tightly. Thank you for your kindness, Your Majesty. Marriage is a matter of mutual affection between two people. There is no need for you to trouble yourself with this. Jing Zhao rose to his feet, his expression cold and impassive, giving nothing away. The Emperor's unfathomable gaze swept across the faces of the assembled guests, then suddenly shot toward me like a sharp arrow. I jolted in terror, quickly lowering my head. That is enough, the Emperor said sternly. Today is Concubine Li's birthday. Let us not allow trivial matters to overshadow the main celebration. As for Prince Jing's marriage, I have my own plans. Only when the feast finally came to an end did I allow myself to breathe a sigh of relief, my back soaked in cold sweat. I vaguely remembered that the Emperor had never been fond of the idea of Shen Mingyu as his daughter-in-law. First of all, Shen Mingyu's biological mother had been a maid, a woman of lowly birth. The Emperor had even thought it beneath his son to take her as a crown prince's concubine. Secondly, The emperor had always considered Shen Mingyu to have a questionable character. She had been involved in messy entanglements with two of his sons, and in the end, had only married the crown prince because of that scandalous incident. Even though Shen Mingyu had not been violated now, the emperor still held a prejudice against her. Ironically, it was precisely this prejudice that put my mind at ease. It seemed that arranging a royal marriage between Jing Zhao and Shen Mingyu was not going to be as easy as Princess Yuhua had made it out to be. This matter that had plagued me for so long had come to an end in such a hasty manner that I was somewhat astonished. I was still patting my chest, catching my breath, when my eyes suddenly met Jing Zhao's. He shot me a blank, indifferent glance, flicked his sleeves, and walked away from Huguang Pavilion without a word. Sister Mingyu, as I walked through the corridor with Shen Yiheng, Jing Ziyi suddenly caught up to us from behind. He pulled a small porcelain vial from his bosom, wiping the sweat from his forehead with a huff, and said, "I noticed your hand was injured during the feast. This is golden sore medicine I just got from Imperial Physician Shu." He stood at a distance, extending his left hand, the small vial wrapped in red cloth resting in his palm. I had noticed his clinging, obsessive gaze during the feast, enduring it with great effort, avoiding his eyes at every turn. The sight of him instantly brought back the terror of that night when he had tried to violate me. "Your Royal Highness, please show some decorum," Shen Yiheng said, stepping forward abruptly to shield me behind him, his voice cold as ice, devoid of any warmth. "We have plenty of golden sore medicine at the mansion. There is no need for you to trouble yourself." With that, Shen Yiheng gave me a gentle push, patted my shoulder, and led me away. Sitting in the carriage, I couldn't help but laugh. A weight lifting from my chest, my mood lightening considerably. Shen Yiheng, who had been leaning against the carriage with his eyes closed, opened them. He crossed his arms, glanced at me, and said suddenly, "Mingyu would never giggle like this." The matter of the royal marriage would not be brought up again for the time being, and I was genuinely happy. But my happiness was short-lived. Another troublesome matter soon found its way to me. It was Zheng Xian's birthday, the younger brother of Zheng Dai, and he had invited Shen Yiheng to attend. Zheng Xian had only recently been sent to the military training grounds to gain experience. Shen Yiheng, taking pity on his young age, had looked out for him quite a bit on a daily basis. That was why Zheng Xian had specially sent an invitation to Shen Yiheng. If Shen Yiheng went, wouldn't that mean he would meet Zheng Dai? After all, Zheng Dai had the female lead's halo. What if Shen Yiheng fell head over heels for her at first sight? Then, I suddenly felt a surge of nervousness. After dinner, I paced back and forth in the courtyard, unable to settle down. The stone lanterns flickered to life, casting a warm glow. The chirping of crickets in the grass only served to heighten my restlessness. Shen Yiheng strode quickly through the main gate. Dressed in his sleek black warrior's attire, a sword hanging at his waist. "I had some business to attend to, so I'm back late. I was afraid you would be waiting for me. Has everyone eaten? Father and mother have had their dinner, I assume." I nodded. He tugged slightly at his collar, saying, "I rode back on horseback. I'm covered in sweat. I need to take a bath first." The air seemed to carry a faint, lingering scent of sweat. A thin layer of perspiration glistened on his cheeks. Following the line of his jaw, I caught sight of his prominent Adam's apple, faintly damp with sweat, bobbing up and down as he spoke. My heart began to pound wildly, thumping so hard it felt like it was about to jump out of my chest. Before I could think, my hand shot out and grabbed his arm. Shen Yiheng froze, turning his head away awkwardly. "What's wrong?" I let go immediately, shaking my head. "Nothing." He walked a few steps away before I snapped back to my senses, running after him. Today, a servant from General Zheng's mansion delivered an invitation. "It says that Master Zheng is celebrating his birthday in a few days and would like to invite you to his mansion." I know," he replied. "He mentioned it to me at the training grounds today. Mother had the kitchen save some food for you. I'll have someone send it to your room later." "All right." I tried my best to push aside my wandering thoughts, forcing my racing heart to calm down, and said, "I heard the cotton roses in his garden are the most beautiful in the capital. I want to see them too. Can you take me with you?" "Mingyu, are you in such a hurry?" Shen Yiheng stopped in his tracks, turning to face me with a helpless smile. It's still 5 days away. Are you that eager to see the cotton roses? All right. I'll take you there that day." When he smiled, his eyes seemed to hold an entire galaxy of stars, truly breathtaking. "If there's nothing else, I'll head back now." That night, lying in bed, I found it impossible to fall asleep for some reason. My mind wandered aimlessly from one thought to another. I wondered, if the male lead and the second male lead were both present, would the female lead still pay attention to the second male lead? I slept very lightly that night. Early the next morning, I took my maid and went to lie in wait along the path that Jing Zhao would inevitably take on his way back to Prince Jing's mansion. After waiting for what felt like an eternity, Jing Zhao finally appeared. I mentally prepared myself, then stepped forward to strike up a conversation. "You didn't take your carriage today." He wore a dark, forbidding expression, clearly unwilling to be bothered. Seeing me trailing after him like an annoying leech, he scowled, his patience finally snapping. "If you have something to say, say it, don't beat around the bush." Zheng Xian, the only son of General Zheng, is celebrating his birthday in 4 days. "Are you going?" I forced a dry laugh, rubbing my hands together nervously. He let out a cold, mocking chuckle, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Do I look like I have nothing better to do? There are people celebrating birthdays in the capital every single day. Am I supposed to attend every single one of them?" I clamped my mouth shut, tucking my tail between my legs and slinking away in defeat. His words had clearly implied that he would not be going, yet he still showed up at Zheng Xian's birthday feast, and that was where I finally laid eyes on the female lead of this novel, Zheng Dai. She was the epitome of elegance and grace, the kind of woman who looked destined to become an empress. Her face had distinct, well-defined bones, with slightly square contours that did not appear harsh in the least. Instead, they lent her an air of poise and lightness. Her features were clear and refined. Adding to her clean and capable demeanor, dressed in a snow-blue high-collared robe today, her neck looked even more slender, her temperament standing out prominently among the crowd. When she curtsied to Jing Zhao, the look of surprise that flashed across her face was not entirely concealed. I glanced at the two of them standing side by side, then quickly pulled Shen Yiheng over to where Zheng Xian was greeting the guests. I was determined not to let any sparks of affection ignite between him and Zheng Dai. According to the original novel, later on, after Shen Mingyu and Zheng Dai became sisters-in-law, Shen Mingyu had resorted to petty tricks to bully Zheng Dai, and her behavior had only grown more and more excessive over time, so much so that even Shen Yiheng, who had always doted on her, could no longer stand to watch, whether it was out of sympathy, compassion, or admiration for Zheng Dai's unyielding perseverance. Shen Yiheng had eventually fallen irrevocably in love with her. Shen Mingyu had felt as if the world had betrayed her. The woman had stolen her fiancé, and now she was trying to steal her brother too. How could she not hate her? She raged against the unfairness of fate. She had lost her purity and been trapped in the crown prince's mansion, living each day like a year in misery. Meanwhile, Zheng Dai and Jing Zhao were deeply in love. Their happiness a constant reminder of what she had lost. The man who was supposed to be her husband was now hers, and now she wanted to take her brother as well. Driven by these feelings of resentment and injustice, Shen Mingyu had committed countless wrongs, transforming from a noble, bright young lady into a bitter, twisted shadow of her former self. In truth, Crown Prince Jingzi had truly loved her. He had loved her so deeply that he would have gladly given her his heart. He had showered Shen Mingyu with more glory and wealth than even the crown princess could dream of, giving her all the sincerity he had to offer, but their relationship had been built on a rotten foundation, like a spoiled seed. No amount of careful tending could ever make it bloom and bear fruit. Had Shen Mingyu truly not understood Jing Zi's feelings? Had her heart been so cold and hard that it could never be warmed? No, she had understood. But Jing Zi was the very source of all her misfortunes, the one who had ruined her life. Could his small acts of kindness really erase all the evil he had done? When the new emperor ascended the throne and the crown prince was imprisoned, Shen Mingyu had not been locked up because she had rendered meritorious service to the new regime. It was then that Jing Zi had given her a letter of divorce. He had said, "If you are safe and well, then I can finally rest easy." Shen Mingyu slipped him a packet of poison, As she walked out of the imperial clan court, the wind howled, and she couldn't hold back 2 tears. Standing in the cotton rose garden, staring at the blossoms, I found myself drifting back to that scene from the novel, lost in thought for a long while. Shen Yiheng called my name several times, but each time I just stared blankly, replying, what's wrong?" He sighed helplessly. "What are you so preoccupied with? Didn't you want to see the cotton roses?" Just then, a servant from the general's mansion announced in a loud, clear voice, "His Royal Highness the Crown Prince has arrived." Everyone exchanged confused glances. Zheng Xian drew a sharp breath, dabbing the sweat from his forehead with his sleeve. Today was supposed to be a simple, intimate feast, attended only by a few of his close friends. Why had both Prince Jing and the Crown Prince deigned to grace them with their presence? After exchanging a few polite pleasantries with the guests, Jing Ziyi told everyone to continue admiring the flowers as usual, not to be constrained by his arrival. With that, he strode straight toward us. Shen Yiheng reacted quickly, grabbing the sleeve of my robe and pulling me away, at that moment, acting on her mother's instructions. Jing Dai was personally accompanying Jing Zhao on a tour of the cotton rose garden. It seemed Shen Yiheng was planning to take me over to join them. I couldn't let Shen Yiheng get close to Jing Dai, and I certainly didn't want to interrupt the hero and heroine's little outing. Realizing his intention, I quickly tugged my sleeve free from his grasp, pushing him abruptly in the opposite direction. "Mingyu, are you upset about something?" Shen Yiheng asked suddenly, catching me off guard. I blinked, completely confused. "What are you talking about? Miss Zheng is our hostess, and Prince Jing is a man of high status. It's only proper that we go pay our respects," he said carefully, watching my face, choosing his words with caution. Don't overthink it. Did he think I had a crush on Jing Zhao? Was he suspecting I was jealous right now? As if to confirm my suspicion, he added, perfectly in tune with the moment, "Prince Jing is indeed an outstanding man, noble birth, erudite, elegant in speech and bearing. It's only natural that you might admire him. The timing wasn't right at concubine Li's birthday feast last time, but when the opportunity arises, mother will definitely speak up for you." He was so utterly mistaken. I pouted. "I don't have those kinds of feelings for him." "Then why did you? I thought you were annoyed to see them together. Didn't you get up bright and early the other day just to see him?" "Oh no." Before I could open my mouth to explain, he suddenly nodded toward Jing Zhao, who was approaching from behind, a mischievous glint in his eyes. "Look, here he comes. Seriously, couldn't he just stay with the female lead instead of coming over here to bother us?" Once Jing Zhao reached us, Shen Yiheng made a move to leave, but I grabbed his sleeve and held him back. Jing Zhao glanced at my hand clutching Shen Yiheng's sleeve, then looked away, his tone flat. "You're not a child anymore, still clinging to your brother like that. Sister Mingyu, might I have a word with you, somewhere private?" Of all the bad luck, the Crown Prince had to come over too. Shen Yiheng frowned, cutting him off sharply. His eyes darted quickly from my face to Jing Zhao's. Then he leaned forward slightly, shielding me behind his tall frame. "Your Royal Highness, please show some propriety, brother." Jing Zhao nodded at Jing Ziyi, shooting a suspicious glance at Shen Yiheng before adding, backing him up, "If your highness has something to say, you can say it right here." A private conversation between a young lady and a prince in full view of everyone. People are bound to talk. Jing Ziyi twirled his folding fan in his hand, shooting Jing Zhao a cold, sardonic look. "It seems father hasn't given you enough duties to keep you busy, third brother. If you have the leisure to wander around admiring flowers, I could never hope to be as favored by father as your highness." Jing Zhao replied calmly, "I wouldn't dare compare myself to you. Third brother has always been in poor health, as delicate as a willow branch in the wind." Jing Ziyi went on, sneering, "Earlier, when I saw your figure from behind, I almost mistook you for some young lady from a noble family in the capital." The Crown Prince snorted softly, adding, "The nights are getting cold in the 9th lunar month, third brother. You'd better take care not to catch a chill. If you're bedridden, you won't be able to attend court for days. Then you'll have no choice but to stay home and admire the flowers all by yourself." "That's enough." I pushed past Shen Yiheng, who was standing guard in front of me, fighting down the instinctive revulsion I felt at the sight of Jing Ziyi. I held out my hand, saying firmly, "Your Royal Highness, shall we take a walk?" We stood by the edge of the pond, wordless. After a long while, Jing Ziyi finally found a topic, his eyes fixed on the back of my hand as he asked softly, "Sister Mingyu, has your hand fully healed?" Yes. Not far away, Sheniheng and Jing Zhao stood before a large cluster of pale pink and white cotton roses, glancing over in our direction. The blossoms there bloomed in lush, vibrant profusion, while by the pond where Jing Ziyi and I stood, only withered lotus stalks jutted out of the water, a bleak, desolate scene. "What happened that night? It wasn't what I intended," Jing Ziyi said quietly, his voice laced with regret. "I'm so sorry I frightened you." I frowned, clenching my fists tightly, and hissed in a low, urgent voice, "Don't ever mention that night again, and you don't need to apologize." With that, I turned on my heel, ready to leave. "Sister Mingyu," Jing Ziyi called after me, his voice soft and pleading, "when we were children, every time I told you how beautiful you were, you'd get so angry. When I said I wanted to marry you, you looked at me coldly and asked if I only admired your looks." I thought about it for a long time. I admit I was shallow, back then, but there are thousands of beautiful people in this world. Only you, your beauty fits exactly what my heart desires. Only you have a face that haunts my dreams day and night. I know you'll never forgive me. I won't bother you again from now on. Please, don't hate me. I quickened my pace, fleeing the pond as fast as I could. He terrified me. Even after all these months, I still couldn't get over what had happened. There were nights when I woke up soaked in cold sweat, screaming into my pillow, unable to catch my breath. "Mingyu, are you all right?" On the carriage ride back to the mansion, Shen Yiheng asked, looking at me with concern, "What do you think of Prince Jing? Why was he asking me about Jing Zhao again?" I really didn't have any romantic feelings for him at all. When I didn't respond, he went on talking, more to himself than to me. "Prince Jing is a good man. That's why mother wants to marry you to him. If you could marry him, I'm sure he'd treat you well. I'm not your sister." I snapped suddenly, irritation bubbling up inside me. "And I don't have any feelings for him. How many times do I have to say it?" Caught off guard by my sudden outburst, he looked flustered. He poured me a cup of tea, pushing it gently toward me. "Is it because of the differences between your world and ours? Don't young ladies where you're from like men like Prince Jing? Then what kind of men do you like?" I replied without thinking. "Most girls where I'm from like younger guys, boys who are younger than them. They like being called sister sweetly by those little wolf dogs. Young ladies from your world really are different from ours," he mused. "But, do these little wolf dogs from your world actually talk, if you like younger men? I can ask mother to keep an eye out for suitable candidates for you. Everyone these days seemed to be obsessed with younger partners. But I'd never been into that type. When I read novels, I'd never liked the overbearing CEO-type heroes. In real life, I'd always been drawn to gentle, older brother types. Though I'd never actually gotten the chance to meet someone like that before. Now, though, I'd finally met one, and sure enough, the gentle second male lead in novels really was perfect in every single way. Staring up at the ceiling of the carriage, the words slipped out of my mouth before I could stop them. "I don't like younger guys. I don't want a little brother, I only want an older brother. Ever since I was little, I've always liked gentle older brother types. That's never changed." Shen Yiheng froze, his lips moving slightly, but he said nothing. When the carriage pulled up at the mansion gate, for the first time ever, he forgot to help me down, stepping out of the carriage on his own. For several days after that, I didn't see him at the mansion at all, day or night. He suddenly became incredibly busy, leaving the house before dawn and returning home long after dark. I never went to his study again. Sitting alone at the stone table in the courtyard, practicing my calligraphy, I watched a few fallen leaves swirl down and land on my rice paper, picking up a leaf stained with ink. A wave of inexplicable melancholy washed over me, grief for the passing of spring, sorrow for the fleetingness of time. He was avoiding me. I knew why. To him, I was his sister. I was nothing but a wandering soul, a faint remnant of consciousness, ordinary, unremarkable, with nothing to offer. Worse still, I wore his sister's face. I was his sister, but in my dull, uneventful life, I had never met anyone like him before. gentle, refined, with a noble, pure spirit, possessing every wonderful quality I had ever admired, and when I was with him, I often forgot that he was supposed to be my brother. I didn't want things to turn out like this. Honestly, I didn't think I'd said anything that could have upset him this much. Had those few ambiguous words of mine really troubled him so deeply? That night, I stood in the courtyard waiting for him for a long time, but he still didn't come home. I wandered out of the mansion gate. And that was when I saw it, Shin Yi-hung's horse, tethered to a willow tree not far away. He was leaning against the tree trunk, staring up at the moon hanging in the sky, lost in thought. His sharp, elegant eyebrows slanted into his temples, his nose was straight and prominent, and the line of his jaw looked even more smooth and defined as he tilted his head back slightly. Moonlight caressed his face softly, lending his profile a light, gentle grace. The maids in the mansion had once said that Shin Yi-hung wasn't as handsome as Jing Zhao, but perhaps it was just a matter of taste. Shin Yi-hung was, without a doubt, the most beautiful man I had ever seen. I lifted my head to gaze at the moon too. Moonlight was supposed to be cold and distant, wasn't it? It didn't feel the least bit gentle to me. I walked toward him step by step through the darkness, stopping in front of him, and asked in a deliberately light, casual tone, "Brother, why aren't you going home? The night wind is cold, let's go back together." "Okay." Shin Yi-hung stared at me in surprise, as if he'd turned into a block of wood, too stunned to speak. Then he quickly turned around, untying the rope from the willow tree, grabbed the horse's reins, and replied shortly, "All right." Moonlight cast our crisscrossing shadows on the path ahead. In the eerie silence, the only sound was the soft huffing of the horse's breath. "Mingyu, I'm your brother," he said suddenly, the words hanging in the air between us. I fell silent, then forced a smile, trying to make light of it. "I know that. You've been acting so strange lately. It's like you're deliberately avoiding me. Is the training ground really that busy these days?" Shin Yi-hung led the horse forward, his voice low and heavy. "It's been quite busy." We walked the rest of the way in silence. As soon as we stepped through the mansion gate, a servant hurried forward to take the horse's reins, leading it toward the stables. "Mingyu, as long as you're living in my sister's body, the minister's mansion will protect you forever," he said, his gaze steady and earnest. "I will protect you too, because I am your brother." I caught the unspoken meaning behind his words, forcing a smile and murmuring awkwardly, "Thank you. When you're not so busy these days, can I talk to you sometimes? In this family, you're the only one I dare talk to freely, normally. Just to keep up your sister's aloof image, I don't even dare say much to the maids." His eyes darkened with a complex mix of emotions as he stared deeply at me, his tone softening, his words slow and deliberate. "I have a hidden guard, her name is Arching. She lurks in the shadows most days. But her martial arts are exceptionally strong. It's far too dangerous for a young woman like her to remain among my male subordinates. From now on, she will serve at your side. I don't need her." I rushed to refuse. "I stay at home every day, never going anywhere. I have no use for a hidden guard. Arching is a woman," he persisted, his voice gentle yet firm. "It's not proper for her to spend all her time with my male lieutenants. She has a quiet, reserved nature. You can confide in her about anything. She will never breathe a word of it to anyone else." "I understand. Thank you," I replied quietly. "There's no need for thanks. I am your brother." I knew then, from now on, he would keep avoiding me, always and forever. When the second snowfall blanketed the capital, a major crisis erupted in the imperial court. General Zheng Dai's father, who was stationed at the border, returned to the capital without an imperial edict. In the grand hall, he banged his head against the ground, declaring loudly, "The winter clothes, provisions, and grain for our troops at the border are critically insufficient. The military funds allocated by the court are far from enough to keep our soldiers and horses alive through this bitter cold." General Zhang went on to state that this year, the winter garments provided to the soldiers were still the damp, mildewed ones from last year. If nothing was done, countless soldiers would freeze to death. He further revealed that for 5 years, he had repeatedly submitted memorials to the throne, begging the court to increase military funding, yet for some unknown reason, None of his memorials had ever reached the emperor's eyes. He had never received a single response from the court. Thus, he had risked the death penalty to return to the capital in secret, pleading for justice for his loyal soldiers. The emperor flew into a rage. The Ministry of Revenue allocated full military funds every year. It was clear that someone was embezzling the money, and had even dared to suppress General Zheng's memorials. The emperor angrily ordered Jing Zhao to thoroughly investigate the matter, commanding him to find the mastermind behind the embezzlement and execute him as a warning to others. Shen Mingyue's father, Shen Shun, Minister of Revenue, was implicated in the scandal. In recent days, officials from the Court of Judicial Review had visited the princess's mansion several times, summoning him to assist in the investigation. The atmosphere at home grew heavy and somber, thick with unease. This plot twist marked a crucial turning point. It was the moment when the crown prince's power began to wane, and Jing Zhao's influence surpassed his for the first time. For the mastermind behind the embezzlement of military funds was none other than Queen Wang's brother Wang Chongfan, Minister of War, and the crown prince's maternal uncle. The officials in charge of transporting supplies and grain were all his loyal followers. Wang Chongfan had argued that the border was relatively peaceful these days. With no major wars for years, there was no need for such a large amount of military funding. He had siphoned off the embezzled money to bribe officials and build political alliances for the crown prince, currying favor with influential figures in the court. Once the truth came to light, the emperor was utterly disappointed in the crown prince, ordering him to remain confined to his mansion for 3 months to reflect on his mistakes. Meanwhile, Jing Zhao began to show his true capabilities, stepping into the spotlight and gaining the attention of all the court ministers. According to the original novel, Jing Zhao and Shen Yiheng had secretly sneaked into Wang Chongfan's mansion one night, where they found the key piece of evidence, a ledger of the embezzled funds, before they could meet their contact. They were ambushed and chased by Wang Chongfan's elite assassins in the forest east of the city. In a split second, Shen Yiheng had taken an arrow meant for Jing Zhao, leaving him with a permanent arrow wound. Every time the weather turned cold and damp, the old wound would flare up, causing him excruciating pain. The novel's description of Shen Yiheng's injury was truly heart-wrenching. The chapter where the arrowhead was dug out of his flesh, blood dripping relentlessly, made my scalp tingle with horror. The image of the valiant young general, his face as pale as paper, lying on the bed groaning in agony, was enough to move anyone to tears, even though Shen Yiheng had taken an arrow for him, saving his life. Jing Zhao had never shown him any extra leniency or gratitude because of this life debt. In the end, Jing Zhao had even spread the rumor that Shen Yiheng was a bastard son, all to crush Shen Yiheng's feelings for Zheng Dai. He could have chosen a less cruel way to achieve his goal, but he had deliberately picked the most ruthless one possible. Just thinking about this plot line from the original novel made my blood boil with anger. Yet as the story progressed, readers were all deeply moved by how Jing Zhao doted on his wife. Forgetting completely how cruelly he had treated Shen Yiheng in the past, the night raid on Wang Chongfan's mansion was bound to happen in the next few days. I had tried several times to find Shen Yiheng, wanting to drop a hint, to warn him, but he had been coming home late recently, and whenever he saw me, he would go out of his way to avoid me. I never got the chance to speak to him. Tormented by anxiety and fear, I could do nothing but take Arching to scout the area around Wang Chongfan's mansion day after day. After several trips, I finally figured out which forest east of the city was the one mentioned in the novel. Each night after dinner, I would pace back and forth in the lakeside pavilion outside Shen Yiheng's courtyard, staring at his closed door under the dim lantern light. If Shen Yiheng was going to sneak out, I would definitely see him leave. In the dead of night, the door creaked open slowly. He stood there, draped in a black cloak, his steps steady and resolute. The soles of his boots crunched softly against the thick, fluffy snow. I rushed toward him without hesitation, lifting the hem of my robe in a hurry. But my feet slipped on the icy ground, and the world spun wildly around me. I fell face-first into the snow, my head plunging into the white drifts, my mouth filling with cold, powdery snow. As I struggled to get up, a pair of boots embroidered with golden thread suddenly appeared before my eyes. Following the boots upward, I saw him standing there, his face dark and impassive, showing no trace of joy or anger. My cheeks were frozen bright red, my lips trembling as I whispered softly, "Brother. It's so late, why aren't you asleep? What on earth are you doing here?" Anger churned in his eyes as he hauled me roughly to my feet, yanking my sleeve and demanding sharply, "What exactly do you want? Are you going out?" I asked, gently pulling my sleeve free from his grasp, my voice low and urgent. "The roads are slippery with snow. If you must go out, take your hidden guards with you. It's far too dangerous to go alone. You always have a way of getting yourself into such a sorry mess." He muttered, his tone laced with frustration. He hadn't spoken to me much lately. Whenever he saw me, he would wear a cold expression and walk the other way. All because of those few ambiguous words I'd said. He was no longer gentle with me. Not anymore. Bitterness welled up in my heart as I hung my head, whispering, "You would never have been this harsh to your real sister. My sister would never be this foolish." Shen Yiheng snapped, flinging my sleeve away and turning to leave. His voice cold as ice. "It's freezing. Go back inside at once." Ignoring his order, I grabbed his cloak sleeve tightly. Beneath the black fabric, I could clearly feel the rough texture of a night suit. After Shen Yiheng left, I stood there alone, breaking out in a cold sweat. "Arching, besides you. How many hidden guards does brother have?" I didn't even bother to change my wet shoes and socks, rushing to Arching's room in a panic, my forehead covered in sweat. "For more," she replied. "Arching, I need your help," I said urgently. After listening to my suspicions, Arching stared at me gravely for a long moment before nodding firmly. "Very well. This subordinate will go fetch fifth brother at once." Less than half an hour later, Arching returned with 4 burly men I had never seen before. According to the original novel, the contact who was supposed to meet Jing Zhao and Shen Yiheng was waiting for them west of the city. Yet they had been chased all the way to the East Forest instead. Otherwise, with the hidden martial arts skills of Shen Yiheng and Jing Zhao, they would never have been put in such a dangerous predicament. Our group lay in ambush in the East Forest near Wang Chongfan's mansion. I wasn't entirely certain if the two of them would really show up here. Arching urged me to stay home, but panic threatened to swallow me whole. I refused to listen. I only knew one thing. Jing Zhao was the male lead. He had the male lead's halo of invincibility around him. He would never die, no matter what. But Shen Yiheng was not so lucky. Moreover, the hero and heroine hadn't gotten together yet. If something happened to him now, my thoughts were cut off by the sound of fierce clashing coming from not far away, the sharp, ear-piercing scrape of swords meeting swords, shattering the silence of the winter night. Faint, broken shouts drifted through the air. "The master has ordered, whoever retrieves the ledger shall be rewarded with 10,000 taels of gold. Men, charge. You are outnumbered and outmatched. Hand over the ledger, and we may spare your lives." My heart leaped into my throat as I squeezed Arching's hand tightly, my knuckles turning white with tension. Arching and the 4 men drew their long swords, slinging their arrow quivers over their shoulders. They exchanged a single, determined glance, then leaped into action. Charging forward to join the fray, within moments, 2 figures dressed in night suits came sprinting toward our hiding spot, one stockier, the other leaner. Their faces were taut with tension as they ran, arrows clutched in their hands, a dark liquid dripping faintly from the shafts. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. Soon I would be able to call out to them. The horses were waiting not far away. "Brother, Jing Zhao, I'm here." "The horses are down there," I shouted at the top of my lungs. Both men froze in shock when they saw me, then gasped for breath as they grabbed me, yanking me along with them as they ran forward. Jing Zhao held my hand, running in front of me, while Shen Yiheng stayed close behind. A sneaky black-cloaked figure hiding in a tree suddenly drew his bowstring. A cold glint flashed as 3 arrows went whistling through the air. Swish, swish, swish. Shen Yiheng released his grip on me, raising his sword to block the incoming arrows. In the blink of an eye, another arrow came speeding toward Jing Zhao, flying straight for his back. If taking that arrow for Jing Zhao was Shen Yiheng's destined fate, then I would take it instead. Shen Yiheng was strong and healthy. Yes, but beneath his armor, he was still just flesh and blood. He would still feel pain, he would still suffer. With a muffled grunt, The arrow sank deep into my back, thankfully. It did not pierce all the way through, before I could even cry out in pain. I heard Shen Yiheng scream my name in a voice filled with panic and terror. Mingyu. I looked at Shen Yiheng, and for some reason, I wanted to laugh. It was okay, he was safe. He wouldn't have to endure that agonizing pain, wouldn't have to suffer from the recurring arrow wound ever again. After all, I was never meant to be part of this world. If I could shield him from this storm, then my time here would not have been in vain. Not far away. The black-cloaked assassin fell heavily from the tree with a thud, arching, and the others came running over, arrows in hand. Jing Zhao pulled me tightly into his arms, his entire body trembling violently. I was soaked in cold sweat, the pain so searing I couldn't utter a single word. Mingyu, do you know? No one has ever treated me like this before, he whispered, his voice shaking uncontrollably against my ear. I thought that in this whole world, apart from my mother, no one would ever be willing to give up their life for me. If all the times you pushed me away before were just a game of hard to get, then you succeeded, you've won my heart. Jing Zhao held me even closer, his voice breaking with emotion. Don't be afraid, you're going to be all right. I understand your feelings now, I know everything. He rambled on, his words pouring out in a frantic stream. Once this matter is over, I will beg the emperor to issue an edict. You are the only woman who can ever be my wife. I wanted to tell Jing Zhao that it didn't matter, that he didn't have to do that. My lips moved repeatedly, but I couldn't force a single clear syllable out. The excruciating, tearing pain made tears stream down my face, through the blurry haze. I saw Shen Yiheng standing behind Jing Zhao, his eyes bloodshot, staring at me with a look I could not begin to describe. That's enough. Shen Yiheng cut Jing Zhao off sharply, yanking me out of his arms. Men and women should not be overly intimate. Let me, brother, I called out weakly, blood trickling from the corner of my mouth down my neck. Was he finally willing to talk to me again? A surge of bitterness welled up in my chest, my voice a mere thread of breath. Brother, tonight I warned you to be careful, but you not only wouldn't listen, you even snapped at me. Will you ever talk to me again? As long as you live, I'll promise you anything. Keep a close eye on the young lady. He instructed the maids, don't let her roll over and strain her wound, talk to her as much as you can to distract her. If the pain becomes too much to bear, send for the mansion physician at once, see if he can prescribe some painkillers. Yes, young master, we understand. With a soft creak, the door closed, and the murmur of voices faded away. It felt like I'd been trapped in a long, endless dream. When I woke again, I was lying face down on the bed, changed into clean inner garments. My back throbbing with searing, tearing pain. The prone position was agony. I tried to shift slightly, but the movement pulled at my wound, sending a fresh wave of pain shooting through me. I gritted my teeth, hissing through the discomfort as cold sweat broke out across my forehead. Young lady, you're awake. Lan Pei noticed my stirrings and hurried over from the foot of the bed, tucking the quilt around me gently, her voice brimming with concern. Don't move, just stay lying down. You have a deep gash on your back. I turned my head slightly to the side. Who are you talking to just now? The young master came to see you. He gave me a few instructions. I let out a small "oh," falling silent. It was a relief beyond words that he was safe. After Lan Pei helped me wash up, she fed me a small bowl of kanji. Every tiny movement sent waves of excruciating pain through my body. I lay there, my face ashen, every inch of me aching. The throbbing in my back was impossible to ignore. I buried my face in the pillow, tears soaking the fabric beneath me. It hurt so much. The door creaked open again, and the voices of the princess and Jing Zhao drifted into the room. I panicked, wiping my tears away hastily. The princess stepped inside. A few stray snowflakes caught in her hair. She sat down on the edge of my bed, her cool fingertips brushing my cheek, her tone uncharacteristically gentle. He's here to see you, waiting outside. Should I let him in, mother? I grabbed her hand anxiously, eager to explain, breaking into a sweat within seconds. My voice lowered to a whisper. I truly have no romantic feelings for Jing Zhao. Please tell him to leave. How can I possibly see anyone looking like this? She pulled out a handkerchief, dabbing the sweat from my forehead tenderly, her brows furrowing with genuine worry. How could I not know what's on your mind? I felt my heart skip a beat, on the verge of a panic attack. I was about to argue further when she rose gracefully, tucking my hand back under the covers. He's already here, it's up to you whether you see him or not. I'll head to the kitchen to see about making you some nourishing food for lunch. With that, she left without another word. Mingyu, may I come in to see you? Jing Zhao's voice came from behind the screen, soft and tentative. His silhouette was cast against the peony-embroidered fabric, faint and indistinct, yet clearly visible. I frowned deeply, refusing him without hesitation. Men and women should maintain propriety. Don't come in. You don't need to dwell on what happened last night. Mingyu, if Aunt hadn't told me last night, if you'd almost, his voice cracked with emotion, the topic shifting abruptly. Is that why you changed your mind? Why you've been avoiding me like the plague all this time? I had no idea. I never knew the Crown Prince did such a thing to you. That's why you suddenly changed one day. It all makes sense now. I truly had no idea you'd gone through something like this. My throat tightened, and I fell silent, stunned into speechlessness. Last night, while I lay gravely injured, Princess Yuhua had taken advantage of Jing Zhao's peak guilt and compassion, pouring out the entire story of that terrible night to him. Had she done it to use his guilt over me to smooth the way for me to marry him? She'd made Jing Zhao believe that my reluctance to marry him stemmed from the trauma of that near disaster. Perhaps that was what Princess Yuhua truly believed as well. I should have seen how you felt sooner. If you didn't like me, why would you wait for me specifically after court? Why would you storm off in anger when you saw me talking and laughing with Miss Zheng? If you didn't like me, why would you risk your own life to take that arrow for me? Jing Zhao stood rooted to the spot, as if peering through the flower-embroidered screen at me, his tone soft and gentle. Last night, when you lay in my arms covered in blood, everything finally clicked into place. Let me take care of you from now on. Will you let me? You're overthinking this. I could almost feel the intensity of his gaze, piercing through the screen, burning straight into me. I turned my head away from the pillow, refusing to look at his silhouette any longer. I truly have no romantic feelings for you. I don't like you. You're mistaken. These endless misunderstandings, one piling on top of another, without a single flaw in the logic, forming an eerily coherent web of false assumptions. Mingyu, why do you always say the opposite of what you really mean? He ignored the explicit rejection in my words, speaking on as if in a world of his own. Once I finish organizing the evidence and submit it to the throne, I will beg the emperor to issue an edict allowing me to marry you. How could he be so stubborn, so impervious to reason, so utterly full of himself? I propped myself up on one elbow, yelling at the screen without restraint. I said I don't like you. How many times do I have to say it? Are you incapable of understanding simple words? By the time I finished speaking, I was gasping for breath, soaked in sweat. Every tiny movement sent a tearing pain shooting through my back. I bit down hard on my lip, letting out a muffled groan, clutching the quilt tightly and hissing through the agony as tears streamed down my face in an instant. Mingyu, Jing Zhao burst into the room suddenly. At the sight of my pale, wretched state, panic flashed across his face. Don't be afraid, I'll send for the physician right away. That night, Shen Yiheng came to see me. He sat on a chair behind the screen, sipping tea, not sparing me a single glance. I wanted to talk to him, but I had no idea what to say. Are the winter sweet blossoms in the courtyard in bloom yet? I asked. They are. Are they beautiful? I pressed on. The figure behind the screen shifted slightly. Shen Yiheng seemed to have changed his posture, his voice calm and unhurried, a faint note of amusement lacing his words. Mingyu, it's night time. I felt a flush of embarrassment creep up my cheeks, muttering softly, couldn't you see them when you left this morning? If you want to see them, I'll tell Lan Pei to pick a couple of branches to put in a vase for you tomorrow. No need, they look best on the branches where they belong. Once you pick them, they'll die sooner or later. I paused for a moment, then asked, curiosity getting the better of me, what are you drinking? Oh. Right, I had someone bring Arching a set of thick skirts the other day. She grumbled a little, saying she can barely walk properly in them now. It's such a waste to have someone as skilled as Arching serving as my maid. Why don't you take her back with you? I heard the sound of Shen Yiheng choking on his tea. I quickly clamped my mouth shut, going completely silent. After a long moment of awkward silence, he spoke again. Jing Zhao came to see you today. I nodded, then realized he couldn't see me. Adding a quiet yes. Did he say anything? I hesitated for a long while, then forced myself to tell him the truth, my voice tight with frustration. He said once the embezzlement case is settled, he will beg the emperor for permission to marry me. A heavy, prolonged silence hung in the air. Through the flickering candlelight, through the screen, I saw his blurred shadow cast upon the fabric, appearing faint and unreal. He rose to his feet, straightening his robes, his voice low and flat. That's good. Jing Zhao is a good man. Marrying him would be good for you. What's so good about it? I stared blankly into the void, my voice hollow. So what if Jing Zhao is a good man? Just because he's of noble birth, am I supposed to marry him? Your mother is dead set on arranging this marriage. And now he says he wants to marry me too. It's like I was always meant to marry him, isn't it? But I'm a human being too. Don't I have any say in the matter? Am I just some empty shell living in your sister's body? I drew a shaky breath, a hot tear trailing down my cheek. Do you really think marrying him is some great blessing for me? Well, I'm not your sister. In my eyes, you are no different from my sister. Shen Yiheng's voice was cold, unyielding, final. If I'm the same as her, then why won't you talk to me anymore? Why have you suddenly become so cold and distant? I let out a bitter, self-deprecating laugh. If your real sister told you she likes men who are like older brothers, would you shut her out too? What exactly did I say that made you so wary of me? After last night, I'd almost thought things could go back to the way they were before, back when he'd treated me like his sister, back when he'd smile at me. All I'd ever wanted was to talk to him again, to not have him look at me with that cold, distant gaze. Why had he promised to talk to me last night, only to turn back into this stranger today? I'm a human being too. I have feelings too. I've told you over and over that I don't like Jing Zhao. You know I don't like him. So why are you deliberately saying things to make me angry? Tears streamed down my face in an unstoppable flood as I broke down, sobbing quietly, unable to hold back any longer. You risked your own life to save him, Shen Yiheng mumbled softly, his voice faint and almost inaudible. As if trying to defend himself, I thought there must be at least some affection there. I'm telling you for the last time, I have no feelings for Jing Zhao whatsoever. Get out. I don't want to talk to you anymore. From that day onward, Shen Yiheng still came to see me every day. He would sit behind the screen, reading a book on his own, sometimes for the time it took to finish a cup of tea, sometimes for a quarter of an hour. I didn't speak to him, and he didn't speak to me either. The maids went about their duties, sweeping, tidying, moving about silently, the room steeped in a heavy, oppressive quiet. Sometimes, hearing the soft rustle of pages turning behind the screen, I couldn't help but steal a glance in his direction, only to quickly look away the moment I realized what I was doing. Other than Jing Zhao's declaration that he intended to marry me, there were no other troubles to plague me for the time being. More than half a month passed. One day, Minister Shun returned home from court with a bombshell announcement. It was said that Jing Zhao had submitted the ledger he'd seized during the night raid on Wang Chongfan's mansion, along with all the evidence he'd gathered over the past few weeks, to the emperor. Upon seeing it, the emperor flew into a violent rage, publicly berating the crown prince in front of all his ministers and ordering him to remain confined to his mansion to reflect on his crimes. To appease General Zheng and the border troops, the emperor further decreed that Zheng Dai be bestowed upon Jing Zhao as his princess of Jing. He even made an exception to allow General Zheng to remain in the capital for the new year, departing for the border only after the festivities concluded. Minister Shun announced the news over the dinner table. Princess Yuhua flew into a furious rage, abandoning her morning meal to storm into the palace, braving the howling snowstorm without hesitation. Arching returned from the kitchen with my meal, relaying the incident to me in passing. I struggled to contain the wild surge of joy in my chest, tears of relief threatening to spill over. My luck couldn't have been better. The emperor truly had no intention of letting Shen Mingyu marry into the imperial family. The wound on my back had scabbed over, plagued by persistent pus infections for days, but at long last, it had stopped oozing, after finishing my morning porridge. An unexpected burst of energy surged through me. I dressed neatly and stood beneath the veranda, watching the snowfall. Large, goose-feather snowflakes swirled gently down from the leaden sky, cloaking the world in a serene, hushed stillness. I stretched out my hand to catch a snowflake, drawing a deep breath of the crisp winter air. For the first time in what felt like forever, the cold breeze carried the sweet, unbridled scent of freedom. Jing Zhao emerged from the swirling snow. His figure gaunt and desolate as he paused beneath a nearby pine tree. His voice was raw and hoarse with exhaustion. "I'm sorry," I blinked in surprise. "Why are you here? Why aren't you holding an umbrella?" He lifted his gaze to meet mine, the usual sharp, confident spark gone from his eyes, replaced by a dark, unreadable depth. "Come up here first," I urged him. "The snow's too heavy." Glancing at the snowflakes dusting his hair and eyelashes, a twinge of sympathy tugged at my heart. "You don't have to apologize to me. Zheng Dai is a wonderful young woman, kind, virtuous, and upright. I'm truly happy for you. I wish you both every happiness." He stared at me intently, his gaze unwavering, as he spoke words that left me utterly bewildered. "Mingyu, do you trust me?" "Mingyu will never be a concubine." Shen Yiheng strode toward us, his eyes fixed squarely on Jing Zhao, his tone cold and unyielding. "What do you want her to trust you for? Are you planning to make her your secondary consort, forcing her to live in the shadow of another woman, to demean herself as a mere concubine?" "That's not what I meant. Father and mother will never consent to this." Shen Yiheng cut him off sharply. "You'd best return to your mansion, Prince Jing. Marriage is a matter for parents and matchmakers to decide. Mingyu has no say in the matter." Jing Zhao departed, his shoulders slumping in dejection, a man utterly adrift. "Brother." I called out to Shen Yiheng. "What are you doing standing out here in the cold?" He snapped, turning on his heel and walking away without sparing me another glance. After that day, Jing Zhao never set foot in the minister's mansion again. Princess Yuhua had kicked up a terrible fuss at the palace, but upon her return, she fell into a heavy, brooding silence. It wasn't until nightfall that she came to see me, her eyes red-rimmed with unshed tears. She told me that the capital was full of promising young men, and she would find a worthy match for me. Her daughter would never be reduced to the status of a concubine, not even to an emperor. I wrapped my arms around her, patting her back gently. "Mother, I truly don't care for Jing Zhao anymore. Please don't grieve for me." I knew what lay beneath her words. Perhaps she was thinking of her own lost love from her youth, of the happiness that had slipped through her fingers. Zheng Dai was the daughter of that very man she had once loved. She couldn't bring herself to stand in their way. I understood her helplessness, her inner turmoil, all too well. The wedding date of Jing Zhao and Zheng Dai was set for the 7th month of the coming year, though it was still months away. It was hailed as an exceptionally auspicious day for a wedding. My wound had finally healed completely, leaving behind a fist-sized scar on my back. I'd tried countless scar-removing ointments, but the mark remained stubbornly etched into my skin. Apart from that one time when he'd shown a flicker of concern for me upon Jing Zhao's visit, Shen Yiheng's attitude toward me remained maddeningly inconsistent. Sometimes he would smile at me when our paths crossed, other times, he would wear a cold, forbidding expression, going out of his way to avoid me, his thoughts an impenetrable mystery. The new year passed in the blink of an eye, and soon it was the Lantern Festival. Princess Yuhua ordered Shen Yiheng to take me out to enjoy the Lantern Fair. I hadn't left the mansion in what felt like an eternity. I suspected Shen Yiheng had no desire to spend time with me. Before he could even open his mouth to refuse, I spoke up first, forcing a casual tone. "Mother, there's no need. The crowds would only give me a headache. I have no wish to join in the festivities this year. Go out and take a walk," Shen Yiheng said, his tone carefully measured. "You haven't stepped foot outside the mansion in far too long." I wore a veil over my head, wrapped from head to toe in a thick fox fur cloak, and ventured out with Arching by my side. The streets were a riot of noise and color, filled with young men and women strolling arm in arm, their faces alight with joy and excitement. As I walked through this sea of twinkling lanterns and laughing people, a sharp, aching sense of alienation washed over me. I felt like a complete stranger in this world. Shen Yiheng walked beside me in silence, neither of us uttering a word. He was like a gust of wind, hot one moment, cold the next, always keeping me at arm's length, yet sometimes drawing inexplicably close. I regretted my words 1,000 times over. I should never have told him I liked older brother types, at least then. He would have continued to treat me with the same gentle kindness as before. Thankfully, the night was dark, the streets noisy and chaotic. No one would notice the tears streaming down my face beneath my veil. Arching, Shen Yiheng instructed, go buy a few skewers of candied hawthorns from the vendor up ahead. Yes, young master. Shen Yiheng and I stood by the riverbank, waiting for Arching to return. The brightly lit street, adorned with countless lanterns, cast a warm, golden glow that shimmered on the water's surface, hazy, dreamlike, yet as illusory as a mirage. Beneath the rippling waves, a perfect, round moon lay reflected in the water. Brother, I whispered, my gaze fixed on the moonlit river. Everyone calls me Shen Mingyu, but the truth is, my real name really is Shen Mingyu. This name, it truly belongs to me. It seems like the only thing about me that is completely, undeniably mine. And yet, when everyone says Shen Mingyu, they're not really talking about me. It's as if I can't even claim my own name anymore. If you don't want to talk to me, then fine, let's just stop speaking altogether. I continued, my voice trembling with suppressed emotion. You know perfectly well that if you'd just show me a little kindness, a little concern, I'd be able to pretend that all this coldness never happened. But every time we start to make progress, you suddenly freeze me out again, without a single word of explanation. Walking past me with a stony expression as if I don't even exist. Are you punishing me with the silent treatment? I demanded, the words pouring out of me in a rush. I need to know why. Why are you always so gentle and courteous to everyone else, yet you treat me like this? Hot tears burned my cheeks, spilling over and trickling down my neck. What did I say wrong? What did I do to deserve this? Why do I have to endure you pushing me away over and over again? Shen Yiheng stood rooted to the spot, stunned into silence, his eyes wide with shock. After a long, agonizing moment, he slowly, tremblingly reached out a hand and patted my arm. I wrenched my arm out of his grasp, my voice rising sharply with anger. Don't you dare try this again. Don't comfort me today, only to ignore me tomorrow. Mingyu. Shen Yiheng froze, his face draining of color, the usual proud, upright set of his shoulders slumping forward as if all the strength had been sapped from his body, his heroic bearing completely gone. Say something, I shouted, taking 2 steps forward and seizing the front of his robe, shaking him violently. How dare you stay silent? Tell me, why are you doing this to me? He stood there motionless, allowing me to clutch his collar, his eyes filled with unspeakable sorrow and vulnerability. That look broke my heart. Yet the fire of anger still raged within me, impossible to extinguish. Overwhelmed by frustration, I grabbed his left hand and sank my teeth into it, hard. He let out a muffled grunt of pain, his brows furrowing tightly, but he made no move to push me away. It wasn't until my saliva and tears dripped onto his hand, until the metallic taste of blood filled my mouth, that I finally released him, flinging his hand away from me in disgust. Blood welled up from the bite mark, dripping steadily onto the ground. Unable to bear the sight, I turned on my heel, feigning a nonchalant demeanor. From now on, you'll never hurt me again. I plunged headlong into the throng of people, wiping the blood from my lips with the back of my hand, letting the tears blur my vision completely. I never spoke another word to Shen Yiheng again. Princess Yuhua picked up on the tense, awkward atmosphere between us, asking me several times if I'd quarreled with my brother. I brushed off her concerns with a half-hearted laugh. How could that be? Brother has always had such a gentle, easygoing temperament. He would never quarrel with me. Princess Yuhua nodded, a faint smile tugging at her lips. That's true enough. He's always let you have your way since you were children. My 40th birthday is in a few days, she said, changing the subject. Your father and I plan to hold a grand celebration, inviting all the noble ladies and young misses of the capital to a feast, and hiring the famous Rong family opera troupe from the southern part of the city to perform. The festivities are secondary, of course. The real reason is to find a suitable wife for your brother. He's not getting any younger. After all, Many of your father's old colleagues will be in attendance as well. We'll ask them to bring their eligible young sons along. So your father can take a look. Your own marriage isn't urgent, but there's no harm in keeping an eye out for promising candidates." I said nothing, giving my silent assent. 2 days later, Princess Yuhua sent a maid to summon me to her chambers. When I arrived, Shen Yiheng was there too. I paused for a moment, surprised. Before greeting them respectfully, "Mother, brother, Mingyu, come quickly and take a look," Princess Yuhua exclaimed, gesturing toward a table piled high with rich silk fabrics. "These are the new materials that just arrived. They're for your brother to wear at my birthday banquet. Which one do you think looks best, the pale moon-white satin, the sky-blue brocade, or this lovely pearlescent white silk? I think they all suit him perfectly. But your brother and I have been arguing over it for ages and still can't decide. In your opinion, which color do you think the young ladies will find most attractive?" The moon-white fabric, a soft, delicate shade of blue, would look stunning on him, I thought, making him appear clean, bright, and cheerful. My gaze lingered on the moon-white satin for a long moment, before a mischievous, spiteful impulse overtook me. I pointed to the pearlescent white silk instead. "That one, it's beautiful." "I still think this one is the best," Shen Yiheng said, his finger resting firmly on the moon-white fabric. "Mother, let's go with this one." As he spoke, his eyes drifted toward me, his gaze lingering on my face for a heartbeat too long, making me shift uncomfortably. Princess Yuhua nodded, a note of regret in her voice. "We could have made 3 outfits and let him try them all on to compare, but unfortunately, the fabrics arrived too late, with only a few days left. The seamstresses will only have time to make one. Oh well, if you like this one best, then we'll go with it. After all, it's you who'll be wearing it on the day of Princess Yuhua's birthday banquet." Shen Yiheng stood at the mansion gate to greet the guests, dressed in that moon-white robe he'd chosen. The peach trees in the courtyard were sprouting tender new shoots, and the willow trees were unfurling their fresh green leaves. Everything was bursting with the vibrant promise of spring. Yet the broken, frayed relationship between Shen Yiheng and me had lingered on, unchanged, from the depths of winter into the warmth of the new season. The Marquis of Yongping sent a rare and precious white Persian cat as a birthday gift, a magnificent creature with a thick, fluffy white coat, a large, bushy tail, and a regal, lion-like posture. The maids gathered around me, urging me to hold the cat in my arms, as they teased it with bowls of warm milk and delicate pastries. Laughing delightedly at its soft, mewling cries, I held the cat gently in my arms, marveling at its soft, tiny body, afraid even to squeeze it too tightly. Suddenly, the kitten let out a soft mew, wriggling free from my arms and scampering away on its dainty, elegant paws. I chased after it for only a few steps before watching it stop at the feet of a distinguished-looking man dressed in white robes, rubbing itself affectionately against his boots. Shen Yiheng walked over side by side with the man, casting me a glance before introducing him. "Huanshen, this is my younger sister, Mingyu. This is Lord Ning Huanshen." The young Marquis of the Marquisate of Yongping. After exchanging polite greetings, the man scratched the kitten's head, smiling as he picked it up and handed it back to me. "It stayed at my residence for a few days before. It seems it's taken a liking to familiar faces." I smiled and took the cat, about to leave, when someone called out to Shen Yiheng from ahead. I had no choice but to guide Lord Ning toward the banquet hall. He seemed to be quite the cat lover, sharing with me a wealth of tips and precautions for raising kittens. Ever the kind soul, he summoned a maid to bring paper and ink, sitting down at the stone table to jot down 2 whole pages of notes, saying thoughtfully, "Don't worry about it. Going up front would just mean making small talk with a bunch of people we barely know anyway. Why not spend some time here instead, learning how to take care of this little furball?" The kitten pressed its paws against the rice paper, tilting its head up to let out a well-timed mew. He laughed heartily at the sight. He regaled me with countless amusing stories about his own cats, setting me off into fits of laughter. When he got to the part about how his cat had peed on his bedding one night and then proceeded to sleep like a log, leaving him to deal with the mess all alone, I laughed so hard I could barely catch my breath, my sides aching with the effort. Truly, he was a charming Witty man with not an ounce of arrogance about him. I was just dabbing at the tears of laughter in my eyes when Shin Yiheng appeared out of nowhere, his expression dark and thunderous, his voice cold and sharp with barely contained irritation. "What are you doing here? Why aren't you escorting the young Marquis to his seat?" After seeing the guests off that night, I sat alone in the pavilion, gazing up at the moon. In the blink of an eye, Shin Yiheng was standing outside the pavilion. Still dressed in the same moon-white robes he'd worn all day, his fingers rubbed ceaselessly against the jade pendant at his waist, his tone stern and unyielding. "Don't laugh like that again, you were never laughed like that." I shot him a long, hard look, then lifted my gaze to the moon above, obscured by dark clouds. It looked dull and lifeless. "Fine, fine," he let out a sharp, mocking scoff, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Fine, isn't this the same person who would jump up and down, insisting you're not Yua, who's always reminding me that you have a mind of your own, that you're a sentient being, not some empty shell?" I froze, stunned. "What are you trying to say? Isn't this what you wanted? Am I wrong for agreeing to it? What exactly do you want me to say to make you happy? Can't you think for yourself?" Shin Yiheng pressed on, his words laced with bitter sarcasm. "Aren't you capable of independent thought? Why do you always have to ask me everything?" I stood up, studying his face closely in the dim light of the stone lantern. It was then that I noticed the unnatural flush on his cheeks. "Have you been drinking? So what if I have? So what if I haven't?" Drunken Shin Yiheng was a far cry from his usual self. Ordinarily, he was reserved and composed. But when intoxicated, he became blunt and impulsive, his emotions laid bare for all to see. "You're a little drunk. I don't want to argue with you, you don't want to argue with me." He let out a bitter laugh. "Haven't we argued enough already?" Shin Yiheng suddenly stepped closer, shoving the scar on his left hand right in front of my face, his voice low and menacing. "You don't want to argue, so you just go straight for the bite instead. Are you a dog?" I clamped my mouth shut, hanging my head in silence. He rolled up his sleeves slowly, revealing a section of his arm, muscular, veins prominent, strong and sturdy. "Not satisfied? Go on then, bite me again. I thought you were so good at that." He held his arm out toward my mouth, his voice sharp with frustration. "Bite me right now, I'm going back." I turned on my heel and walked away. "Stop right there." Shin Yiheng grabbed my sleeve in a vice-like grip, his other hand clamping down on my shoulder, yanking me backward and forcing me to sit on the wooden bench. "What are you doing? What am I doing?" He let out a bitter laugh, his voice rising sharply. "I should be asking you that. You've been torturing me to the brink of madness. Don't you think I don't feel pain? Don't you think I don't feel sorrow? Do you think it doesn't tear me apart every time I'm cold and distant with you? What exactly do you want from me? How long are you going to keep this up? Don't you understand? I'm your brother. What do you expect to get from me?" My nose stung with unshed tears, my voice trembling with emotion. "I understand perfectly well, I understand it all too well, and that's exactly why, from start to finish, all I ever wanted was for you to talk to me. All I ever wanted was for you to stop treating me with such cold indifference. Other than that, what have I ever asked of you? What have I ever taken from you? You keep saying you see me as your sister. Is this how you treat your real sister? Is this how you treat me?" I drew a shaky breath, my voice cracking with suppressed anger. "The most outrageous thing I ever said was telling you about my taste in men. I said I like men who are like older brothers. I said I like gentle people. How dare you assume I was talking about you? Are you the only gentle man in the entire world? Just because I don't want to marry Jing Zhao, does that mean I can't find some other kind young master to marry? Did I ever say I liked you, Ming Yu? Stop lying to yourself." Shin Yiheng stared at me intensely, his eyes dark with emotions he could no longer contain. "Is it really true that all you want is for me to talk to you, to treat you normally?" "It's not." He stated it with absolute certainty, his voice low and raw. "What then? What comes next? Won't you keep pushing for more? Won't you want me to hold your hand? Won't you sometimes want me to hug you? But you're my sister, this face of yours, these hands of yours, they're all my sisters." I shouted at him, my voice cracking with desperation, as if the volume alone could hide the truth of my feelings. I said I don't want any of that. Do you really not want it? My throat tightened, tears spilling over as I stumbled back 2 steps. My voice trembling uncontrollably. I don't want it. I knew I was his sister, but sometimes, I couldn't help myself. I couldn't help wanting to talk to him, wanting to be close to him. Drawn to him like a moth to a flame. I was his sister, and yet I was not, but I had no choice but to be. I'm sorry, Shiniheng said, his voice softening, his emotions finally calming, his tone low and gentle. I'm sorry, I'm afraid I want it. I want it so badly. I've never met a girl who cries as much as you do, who clings as much as you do. I know, being here all alone, you must be so lonely. You've come to see me as your anchor, your only refuge. There were so many times when I thought to myself, fine, then, I'll just talk to her, treat her like my real sister, and that'll be the end of it. But, you're not my sister, not really. The way your lips curve when you smile, the expressions on your face, the way you look at me, it's all so different from yours. Sometimes, I want to brush the tears from your cheeks, I want to wrap you in my arms and hold you tight. But you're my sister, I'm your brother, don't you understand? You keep asking me why I treat you the way I do. What else is there to ask? I don't know why I fell for you. You're foolish, clumsy, always crying, and yet you wear my sister's face. The usual sharpness, the usual pride was gone from his features. His eyes looked like a deep, turbulent ocean, calm on the surface, roiling with emotion beneath, filled with helplessness and sorrow. In that moment, I finally understood. I had hurt him deeply. An overwhelming wave of grief washed over me. My heart feeling heavy and aching, tears threatening to spill over. I'm sorry. The words came out as a broken, hoarse whisper, barely audible. Brother, I'm sorry. I'd only ever thought of my own pain, my own loneliness. I'd never imagined he would say these words. I'd never dared to imagine them. Shiniheng hung his head, his voice soft and fragile, barely above a whisper. Mingyu, let's stop fighting. Okay, I'll be your brother forever. I'll protect you for the rest of my life.